Saw a need for sales education, and in support of finding a solution to this need, he provided a generous gift to fund not only our efforts to create a master's in sales, but also to bring you this month's sales focus sessions with nationally recognized experts, all free of charge to you. Today, I'm very excited to welcome back Mary Marshall Forrest, President and Chief Learning Officer of Forrest Performance Group, who will be discussing sales leadership coaching. Mary is also the creator of Warrior Selling and Leadership Sales Coaching, which are ranked #1 and #2 out of the world's top sales development programs by global gurus. Mary is a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, say that 5 times fast, which is the science of influence and behavioral change. She is a practitioner in accelerated evolution, which is the psychology of removing fear in high performers. She's also a practitioner in theta healing, which is the psychology of removing energetic blocks that create a physical and emotional limitation. I'm confident that as you listen to Mary today, you'll also see that she is on a mission to teach the mindset, process, and language of sales leadership. Before I hand the mic over to Mary, I want to address a few housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions as Mary is presenting, please feel free to submit them through the chat feature and we'll address them as we go, or if appropriate, at the end of the session. And then right after today's session, each of you will receive a survey. If you can please just take a moment to complete the brief survey, it helps us to know if we're meeting your expectations and making sure that as we bring these fabulous sessions to you, that they're exactly what you need and want. Lastly, if you haven't already done so, I invite you to join us on Thursday, April 21st to register for that event. We're going to be presenting David Hoffeld, who is author and CEO and Chief Sales Trainer of Hoffeld Group, who will be discussing Sell More with Science. So with that, it is now my distinct pleasure to hand today's session over to Mary. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. And thank you all for being here today with me. And there's so many names I'm noticing that from last time. And so I appreciate seeing you and you coming back with us. Today, we're talking about leadership in sales, which I think is one of the most interesting and most difficult jobs that there is. I want to make a little distinction between a sales manager and a sales coach, the way that I'm going to use it. So when I think of a manager, I want you to think about a manager. They're looking at how do I make things easier for my people? And right now, more than ever in this economy, in this market, we're being asked as leaders, hey, can you make it easier? Hey, can I have better pricing? Hey, can you get me some more of my supplies? Hey, can I have more marketing? Can I have more of this? Make it easier on me. But a coach looks at their job differently. So a coach says, how can I make my people better today? How can I equip them to be able to handle whatever the market throws at us? If supply chain goes down, how can my team handle it? If the country locks down, how can my team handle it? Are they ready and are they prepared? And so that's when I talk about coaching, that's what I want us to look at. And one thing that I want, as you're thinking about the different experiences and the different questions you get from your team is, right now, is this sales warrior, is this salesperson on my team coming to me? Are they asking me with their questions to make their life easier or to make it better? And look, most of the time it's going to be to make their life easier because that's how we've been programmed. That's what we've been taught. And so I'm going to give you some ways too to help them shift from coming to you asking for things to be easier to start coming to you asking for them to be better. So instead of saying, hey, Sherry, can you get me a price? Can you give me a better price discount? Can you give me some incentives? Say, hey, Sherry, can you teach me how to sell at a higher price? Hey, David, did you know that our competitor next door, they're selling at a lower price? Can you teach me how to sell our product, our service at the higher price? I'm struggling with that. Hear the difference in those questions and what somebody's asking. And so we can teach, and it's our job as coaches and as leaders to teach them how to come to you with those sorts of questions in that way. So we're going to go through some of that today. Right now, all the sales teams that I'm talking to, all the sales leaders, there is so much uncertainty in a sales career. The salespeople, they're hearing it from their prospects, from clients, even sometimes from the leadership teams at the company, all of this uncertainty that's happening. So I believe right now, one of the most important things that we can do as leaders is that we can continue to have our own disciplines of creating spaces of certainty and of structure for our sales team so that we can be a louder voice for them, a louder voice of certainty than everything out in the market and their clients and their prospects who are giving them uncertainty. Because we need our salespeople to be certainty for the prospects. We need them to be that calm, rational, grounded voice. And so in order for them to be able to stabilize in that and be that, we need to be that first for them. And we need to put the structures in place for them to be able to do that. And so I hope that you are in the belief system of having a weekly or bi-weekly sales meeting with your whole team. I hope that you are in the belief system of having daily 15-minute huddles with your team. These are standing fast, get on the same page huddles on a daily basis. Really important, especially for sales teams that are all spread out and not working together. I hope that you are in the belief system of having one-on-ones with each person on your team. Now, the way that I like to have these one-on-ones is either every single week or every other week. I like to schedule them for either 25 minutes or 50 minutes. And I do that purposefully because I know your schedules and I know what you're doing, and you are having meetings back to back. And if you're like me, you're running it right up into the edge. And then what happens? There is no room for you to get to your next meeting or to log into your next Zoom, let alone have a water break or eat lunch or anything else, right? So I like to schedule all the meetings 25 or 50 minutes. It gives you that 5-minute or 10-minute buffer to keep you ahead, to keep you grounded, to keep you balanced, to get to the next meeting. So I like it that way. Now, today we're going to go through a process. I want to share with you a process called the 8 Objectives of Coaching. And it's an 8-step process that you can follow in every one of your one-on-ones with your team to help you to coach them, to give you a guideline with them, so that you don't get stuck in that place of sitting there and going, okay, so what do you need from me? And have you ever noticed that sometimes you have people on your team that ask great questions, and there are some people on your team, they don't know what they don't know. It's not their fault. They don't know what they need to learn. And there are some people that'll just get hijacked and want to talk about their weekend, which is okay. Connection's good too, but we definitely want to make sure that we're coaching. So I'm going to give you that process today so that you are equipped to be able to help change behavior. So if we want people to get better, we have to help them to change behaviors that they're doing. We need to get them to start doing something, or we need to get them to stop doing something. Or even more importantly, sometimes is we need to teach them how to level up. So one thing I want you to think about right now, when you think about your own sales team, is your time equally divided? Are you spending as much time with your top producers as you are those that are in a slump or those that are struggling? And so one of the traps that I see for sales leaders, what happens is you've got somebody on your team, and with the best positive intention that you have, they're struggling and you want to give everything you have to them, and you spend so much time with them. And all of a sudden you look back and you realize, oh my gosh, it's been 3 weeks since I've talked to my top people. I saw them at the sales meeting. I'm sure they'd call me if there was something, but you haven't spoken to them. And so I love for you to have a recurring meeting for your one-on-ones with your team to make sure that you are spending that time with your top performers, especially right now. And here's why. Typically, and these are statistics from within the United States, typically there are about 200 to 250,000 open sales positions in the United States at any given time. But right now, this year, we've had consistently between 800 and 850,000 open sales positions. That is huge. It is like nothing that we've ever seen before. So this is what that means for you. Your team needs more from you. Your team is being recruited right now. I know this. Your team is they are getting LinkedIn messages. They are having their cell phones called. They are having people, if they are a top performer on your team, they are being wooed by other people to come work for them, because right now it is a fight for good salespeople. It is a fight for salespeople like we have never seen before. Our country has not had this much of a need and an opening for salespeople. They are being wooed. They are being promised signing bonuses. This is happening. And so it's even more important, right? Not just from the love in our heart of pouring into the top people on our team, but we need to be doing that also to protect and make sure that we're giving them the growth opportunities, that we're giving them the significance, that we're helping them to see the plan they have with our company so that they don't get wooed to go somewhere else, so they don't leave you. So even more important than ever that we're spending that time with them. Not to mention, can you imagine if you took your top people and found what they're really good at, and you say, you know what, I'm going to help you go from good to great here, or I'm going to help you go from great to impeccable, what that would mean and what that would look like. And so now when they have that growth opportunity, when they're excited because they're learning and growing, one of the main reasons that top people leave is they go, my manager doesn't have anything else to teach me. Now you probably do, but might not have had time. So this process, one, is making sure that we're scheduling and spending that time with each person. The process I'm going to teach you is going to work with your bottom performers. It's going to work with people that are struggling, and it's going to work with people that are breaking records for you. It's going to work across the board. So this is what the process looks like. When you are meeting with somebody, the opening is going to be, so step one is going to be a pre-frame. Now, this is your time to invite them in and to get them excited about what they're about to learn and to get their buy-in that they're ready to learn something. The pre-frame is going to sound like this. So here's your script. Suppose I could show you a way to blank. Suppose I could show you a way to blank. Now, the blank is where it gets tricky, because the blank needs to be something that is 100% about them. 100% about them. So it needs to be something like, suppose I could show you a way to get into that new home faster. Suppose I could show you a way to save even more money every single month so you can go on that family vacation that you've been wanting to do. Suppose I could show you a way to make sure that you have all the finances set aside ready for your growing family. So you might notice something, and that's in these, you need to know your team. You need to know what their goals are. I believe that one of the best things that we can do as a leader is we can take what our company goals are and marry them to the goals of the employee. Why is the salesperson working for you? Why are they willing to work nights and weekends and holidays? They could get a 9-to-5 job, but they're not doing that because they want the opportunity to be able to gamble on themselves, to make more money. And that money what is that money going to do for them? And so it's our jobs as leaders to know what is important about the money, not just the money, not the number. We want to know the number that they want to make and help them get there. But more important is, what is that money going to do for them? What is that going to do for their family? And if we can take that and now marry it to the goals that we need them to do as a company, now we're all winning. Now we're all motivated. We have a higher level of drive. So here's where people get stuck or get kind of twisted up on this, is when we say something that's kind of about them, but also kind of about us as a company. So, hey, suppose I could show you a way to hit your sales goals. Kind of about them, kind of about me, kind of about the company. So we want to make sure it's 100% about them, that we're not adding in something that is about the company or about me wanting them to make their goals. It's 100% about them making their goals. So once we have that, the other key, this is your litmus test on it, is if there is any way that they can say no, your question's not good enough. Your question's not deep enough, and it's not personal enough to them. So suppose I could show you a way to blank. Would you be interested in learning that? Yes, of course. They'll say, yes, of course. I'd love to learn how to take my family on this wonderful Bahamas vacation. I'd love to do that. Your step 2 after your pre-frame is what? It's simple. It's one sentence. What do you want them to do? So it could sound like, great. Well, what I want you to do is is use our follow-up process. What I want you to do is have all of your information in the CRM every day. What I want you to do is blank. It's one sentence of what you want them to do. Very, very simple. And as leaders, this part's probably pretty easy for you because a lot of us become leaders because we're really good at telling people what to do. We know exactly what they should do. So telling them, here's what to do. Super easy. This one is not going to give you, that part's not going to give you a problem at all. But the next step is crucial and it's so important. You're going to understand this so easily. The third step is how. How do they do that? And here's what's interesting. It is about 50% of the time that people don't do what we ask them to do. It's not because they didn't remember. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know how to do it, or they don't know how to do it in a way that makes them feel strong. So for instance, I have never gone and met with a sales team in my entire life where I have said, I've let them know, hey, you know what? After you meet with a prospect, you should follow up. That they go, Mary, no one has ever told me that before. Thank you. Now I know to follow up. Thank you. That's brilliant. No, never happens, right? Every salesperson in the entire world knows to follow up. Now, we can look at all kinds of research that shows that most of them don't. Most of them don't. And the reason that they don't is not that they don't know to do it. It's because they don't know how to do it in a way that makes them feel powerful. They don't know the steps. So when I can sit down one-on-one and really say, hey, what's going on? The things that come up are, Mary, well, when I call somebody, I don't feel powerful. I don't feel strong saying things like, hey, so I'm just calling to check in with you and just see how you are. Yeah, I wanted to know if you have any questions. See, we need our salespeople feeling big, feeling strong, feeling powerful. They are hearing no all day long, all the time. And so now, we need to give them the steps on what to do. So we can tell them, hey, here's what to say when you're following up. Here's how to leave a voice message. Now we're going to have a higher chance of them acting on it because they know exactly how to do it. Now, there's other things like this you'll hear too. Lots of buzzwords in our sales industry and environment. A lot of them saying things like, hey, become a trusted advisor. Have you ever walked away from hearing a speaker or reading a book or a blog post and you're like, I would love to be a trusted advisor. That sounds great. I totally believe in it. Being a trusted advisor, I will get more sales. You're like, they never actually told me how to be a trusted advisor. Like, I'm all in, I want to do it, but I have no idea how to do it. So that's why these steps, this how step is so important and you can't leave it out. Now, here's a couple of tricks to it. When you're doing the how steps, number them. So you'll say something in your what step. So what I want you to do is use our follow-up process. And how you're going to do it is 1, you're going to do this. 2, here's what you're going to do. 3, here's what you're going to do. Now, the reason that you want to number it is because in adult learning, we can recall information better and faster if it had numbers associated to it. So if we say the exact same thing without numbering it, they're going to struggle at remembering it. It might take them a little bit longer, but if we number it, it comes back. Here's another fun thing. Another fun fact is we know, right, that people they're zoning out all the time. Somewhere between every 8 and 20 seconds, we go somewhere else and think about something else. Even when we're in our one-on-one appointments with our sales team, this is happening. So really fun. Whenever a number is said, it brings them back to the present moment. So even if you tell them what you want them to do and you're in that step and they decide to think about it for a second, is that going to work for me? Do I really want to do this? You say 1, their conscious mind comes back into focus with you, and now they're paying attention again. So again, we want to set everything up for our sales team to help them to learn what we need them to learn, to be able to recall the information in the game while they're on the sales floor, while they're on a sales call, while they're in a sales meeting, and to be able to utilize it. So numbering is going to be really effective. Another interesting fact is that we remember numbers in odd numbers. So 3 or 5 would be better than 2 or 4. So sometimes you might have to just add in another one just to make sure you've got 3 steps in there. They'll remember it better. And one thing that I see that pulls people back, that leaders sometimes start to feel a little funny about is, Mary, can't I just tell them, do the follow-up process? Do I really have to number it? Do I really have to get so detailed with it? Maybe it's one step. And here's my response. It probably might feel silly to you because it's common sense to you. But if it was common sense and obvious to others, they'd just be doing it. So it's okay to number it. It's okay to go a little bit more micro with the steps. I'd rather have too many steps and be more micro than have it too chunked up to where it's not sinking in and they're not sure exactly how to handle it. So make sure to add those numbers to give them the steps. So you've pre-framed, you've told them what to do, you've given them the steps, you've done the how step of how to do it. And now your next piece is you're going to validate. Your next step is validate. And with validate, I want you to validate 2 things. So one, you're going to validate the process that you just gave. It will sound something like, and I believe that this process will work because it's exactly what I did when I was in your position doing this role, and it worked so well for me. So I'm validating the process. The second part is you want to validate the human. Validate the person in front of you, and you want that to be very specific to them. So I like to think back to, where is another area that I have seen the person be successful in the past, and I want to remind them of that. So it might sound something like, and I know that this process is going to work for you because I saw the way you implemented our blank process, and you were diligent and you were thoughtful and you had great success with it. And so I know the same thing is going to happen with this process. So I'm making it specific to them, to characteristics and to successes that they've had in the past. And so now they're seeing my entire belief system around it. And so from those 4 steps, they know exactly what to do. So we're either doing something we want them to start doing, something we want them to stop doing, or we're helping them up level. We're getting their buy-in with the pre-frame. We're quickly telling them what we want them to do, giving them the steps, and then giving them our full belief in the process and in them. Now, a lot of times, that's more than we've done before. That's more than what was done for us when we were probably thrown out into a territory and told, figure it out. But there is even more that you can do that's going to help make sure that your team and each person on your team is successful. So if you've ever had the experience where you share a great process with your team or someone on your team, and you probably get like this great motivational speech at the sales meeting and you think everyone's ready to go, and you get back to the next sales meeting and you ask about it and nobody's done it. They thought it was like a 3rd quarter initiative, or maybe it was a break. Like, we didn't know, oh, we're using that right now. I didn't know. Nobody did it. Well, so usually what's happening is it's not an intellectual. It's not they didn't know what to do or how to do it. It's something stopped them, something internal. We call it a leash. And so I want to share with you a formula. It was created by my husband, Jason Forrest, who is over here blowing up the chat boxes. Thank you for that. And so I want to share this with you to help bring it together. So the formula is performance. You can say P equals, so performance. And in sales, think of that performance is the amount of units sold. So the amount of units that the person sells is equal to the knowledge that they have, to K, how much knowledge they have, knowledge on our industry, our product and services, our financing, our contracts, our competitors, all of the knowledge that somebody has, minus the leashes they have. So P equals K minus L. Now, the leashes are the internal struggles, the head trash that stops somebody from doing what they know to do. So for instance, I'm sure you met a salesperson that is phenomenal face-to-face. They are incredible. They follow their process, beautiful stories they tell. They get all the information, qualifying information, all the knowledge they need from the prospect. They do a beautiful job in the sales process. But as soon as they're told to pick up the phone and do it over the phone, it's like they start to close up. because of telephobia. There's something inside of them that says that being on the phone isn't the same in person. And so they don't follow the process that they know to do. Or you've got somebody that they are so good at selling as long as the person is the same age as they are, maybe has the same background, the same education. But all of a sudden they're in front of a prospect, and that prospect has more wealth than they do. And internally something says, ooh, who am I to tell them how to spend their money? They're clearly better with money than me. I shouldn't ask them to buy, they'll figure it out. And they close down. Or they close down because the person that they're selling to is the age of their parents or their grandparents, and they grew up learning, respect your elders. You don't tell your grandparents what to do, respect your elders. And so all of a sudden in a sales environment, those stories and programming start coming back up, and the things that they know to do, that they do so many times so well, they shut down and don't do because of a leash, because something inside of them is telling them that they shouldn't. So I told you half the time people don't do what you ask them to do because they don't know the steps. I want to follow up. I just don't know what to say when I do, so I don't do it. The other half of the time, they're not acting on your guidance and what you've shared with them to do, because they get into a situation and a leash comes up and stops them from acting on the knowledge that you have. This is also the reason that you'll see that sometimes you have a new person on your team that is just crushing it, and you're like, they barely know which way is up. They barely know our product. How are they selling this so much? And you have a veteran on your team that knows more than anybody out there, but they're in a slump and not selling. Those slumps come because the leashes have taken over, and the leashes have become larger than the knowledge. And so that's why somebody that had very little knowledge, maybe a 3 out of 10 on knowledge, but has no leashes, doesn't even know that this person might be a tough sell or this might be a tough economy. They don't even know, and they do so well. So our jobs as coaches is, one, all the things that we just learned about, all going through those steps of teaching people how to do the things they need to do to be successful. But the other part of our jobs as coaches is to be the psychologist, to figure out what is stopping them from doing the things that they know to do, that will make them successful, and get them to stop doing those things, stop thinking those thoughts. But first, we have to figure out what those thoughts and beliefs are. And so that's where step 5 comes in. It's the believe step. So invalidate, I'm telling them how much I believe in them in the process. In my believe step, I'm checking their belief in it. So it will sound something like, so do you believe that this process will work 100% of the time? Another way that you can say that is there any situation which this process won't work, or you don't believe it'll work? See, we want to know that 100% of the time, because we want to find those scenarios where they go, oh, well, yeah, I think it's going to work unless, the person has been doing business with a competitor of ours for 30 years, and then this probably won't work for them. Oh, okay. Found my leash. Now I know exactly how to coach them in that moment based on what they say back. Or, yeah, I believe it's going to work unless the person, unless the person, is a boomer. Those boomers are different. They don't like to buy that way. So it's probably not going to work for them. Oh, okay. Here's a leash. I can go there. Oh, it's going to work unless they're a millennial. You can't even really speak to millennials. They're all over the place. I mean, I don't know. Okay. Ooh, there's my leash. So now I know exactly as a coach what I need to discuss with them to help unleash them so that they will go out and follow the process in every situation. Consistency is key. If we could just have our salespeople doing all the time what they do sometimes, they could 3 times their sales. So I'm going to ask the believe question. So you can ask it any way you want, as long as you're adding in 100% of the time, or you're adding in, I believe this will work. Is there any situation in which this won't work? So we really need to dig for this. If we're too general with it and say, hey, do you believe this will work? Then we're going to get a general yes, one, because they want to agree with us. or no, because they just like to not agree with you. But either way, we can't get into the specifics there of what they need in that moment. So we've got to get specific to help them know. So now once they say, no, I can't think of another situation. It's absolutely, yeah, I think this is going to work. I can't think of a situation in which it won't work. Perfect. From there, we're going to go on to our will step. So this is our step 6. And that step is the time that we want them to begin. So it's going to start with the word will. Will you begin this tomorrow morning? Will you begin this process with your next prospect? Will you begin at blank? Now, the reason for that is we need to put a start time on it because, right, if it is pushing somebody outside their comfort zone, which I hope that it is, right? Remember, as coaches, we are here to make people better. We're here to push people and to convince them to do the things they don't want to do because they're uncomfortable, so that they can earn what they want to earn and provide the life for themselves and their families that they want to provide. So the coaching that you're giving is going to be uncomfortable, which means their brain is going to start trying to find ways to get out of it, to not have to do it. So a way to assure and go around that is to give them a start time. So will you begin this at blank time? And get their agreement on it. Again, we're putting all of this in place to up our ante every single time that they're going to actually do it. So will you begin at this time? Now, next step, also equally as important, another place that as leaders, just as a whole, that we miss sometimes because we're busy, is the when step. And the when step is the time that you're going to follow up with them. The when is the time that you're going to follow up with them. So great. I look forward to hearing about this. We're going to talk about this at our next one-on-one meeting a week from today. Or I would like for you to follow up with me via text in 2 days. Based on what you're asking them to do, you want them to have a trial period of doing it, executing it several times, and then following back up with you. So you'll know most of the time, the next one-on-one meeting is the appropriate time for you to follow up with it. And then what I do is I highlight it and I start my next one-on-one meeting with that. Tell me how it went. So they know and I know. If they don't think that you're going to follow up, they might not do it. But if they know that, oh my gosh, the next time I talk to Mary, the first thing she's going to ask me is how this went, I'm going to do it, right? I know that for myself. I'm going to do it if I know I'm going to be asked about it. So again, we want to, and I want to do everything as well too, to never have a gotcha moment with somebody. I want to be completely transparent and completely clear. I'm going to follow up with you on this, and it's going to be at this time, and we're going to discuss it. So it never feels tricky. It never feels sneaky. It's completely transparent. I believe very much so in transparent leadership. And I think this is a good step of that. This is when we're going to talk about it. And I want you trying this with every person until then, and then we'll talk about it. Or sometimes we want to talk to them 2 days later. We can set up a meeting. You can have them text you or Slack you or whatever your internal communication is to have them go. So perfect. So that you're making sure that you have that scheduled. Do not let them leave your office without that scheduled. Just like I am sure you tell every salesperson on your team, do not end a meeting without your next meeting scheduled. Never do it. Never do it. It's like the cardinal sin of sales is to leave without your next meeting. So if that is it for sales, then for coaching, it's the same. Never let the meeting end without the follow-up meeting in place. Never, 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 never. Always have to have that scheduled on your calendar, because I know there's a lot going on and you are busy and it's going to fall off and you're going to forget and you're not going to do it. And you're going to remember 6 months later, and then you can't even say anything to them because you haven't asked about it in 6 months. Right? You all know, you're with me. You've been there. It stinks. We don't want to do that again. So always have it scheduled. Then we're going to go to our last step, which is celebrate. So our celebrate step is wonderful, because what we're doing is we are now future pacing. I know we had a lot of letters earlier with that neuro-linguistic programming. So we always call it NLP because I don't like to say those words either. But one of their techniques is to future pace. So I'm going to future pace their success by celebrating it. And so it sounds like this. I cannot wait to celebrate all of your success. I cannot wait to celebrate how well this works for you. I cannot wait to celebrate you getting to blank when we meet next time. So I'm letting them know that I'm excited about it, that I am expecting their success, that I'm going to celebrate their success. And this is important too, because we want to make sure that we are ending every meeting with our team, whether it's a sales meeting, a one-on-one meeting, our daily huddle, with power, with fun, with enthusiasm. We want that every time a salesperson meets with you, we want them walking away from the conversation feeling big, feeling proud, feeling powerful, feeling strong. We've got to put them back out into the world that way. Why? Because the world is beating them up all day. Because the world is telling them no. They're hearing no more than anybody else out there. And so it's our job to make sure that, yes, we're coaching them. Yes, we're showing them the gaps and where they can improve. But we are always, always ending with strength and with love and with kindness and with power so that they leave feeling big and bold, so that they can go out and do the job that we need them to do and do over and over again. Also knowing, depending on what they sell, a lot of times our high-end, high-price luxury items, we're maybe selling 2 a month. That's a good average for a lot of industries would be 2 sales a month. Think about that. If I feel like I win and I'm worthy only twice a month, then that's 28 days, 29 days where I feel like a loser, like I lost and I feel beat up. Can't have that. So we need to make sure that we're having these everyday wins and that we're helping to spotlight for them how they're moving a sale forward. And that's a win. And that every conversation with you is a win and is powerful, and they feel even bigger and stronger than they did before, so they can keep doing it. We don't want our salespeople burning out, especially not our top salespeople. And so many of them, right? They've got their game face. And so don't let their game face fool you too, to think, oh, I'll just tell them things they need to fix and move on. So always make sure you're ending with that love and that celebration and that kindness and that belief in them, and letting them also look forward to the next time that you're together, because you're going to start with celebration and what they've done really well. So those are your 8 steps. We're starting off on the knowledge side, making sure that they're understanding the knowledge, how to do it. We pre-frame what, how, validate. Then we're going to take it over and figure out what's going on inside of them. What's going on? We're going to ask, do they believe it's going to work 100% of the time? We're going to give them a start point of when they're going to begin doing it with the will step, when we're going to schedule that follow-up, and then we're going to leave with the celebrate of how we're going to celebrate them and all the success and the effort. The trial. We want to make sure that as coaches, we're really focusing in on the process, not just the results. So you can even say things like, I look forward to celebrating you going through this process and figuring it out. And sometimes if you have them doing something that's new, you're not 100% going to work. You look forward to celebrating all the data and the research that they're going to get, what they're going to do. So always celebrate. Now, there's a couple things that coaches sometimes come to me and are leashed themselves on. And that is, Mary, this sounds like it takes a lot of time. And you're right. It does at first, for sure. One is thinking through this system and making sure. I like to write all of it out beforehand. Here's what I'm going to teach. Here's what I'm going to do to make sure that I'm prepared for my coaching session. So I like it written out. It takes time. But again, we're now teaching people how to be better. You're teaching someone how to think. You're giving them a skill set so that in the long run, it saves time, because you're not having to teach the same thing over and over and over again. You're doing it in a way that's covering all your bases in one conversation. so you can move on. So sometimes it's a big thing and we're sitting there in a one-on-one meeting and this is a full 20-minute conversation. But know this too, this same process doesn't have to be long. You can do this in spot coaching. You can do this in 2 minutes. You can do this when somebody calls you and they're getting ready to jump on a sales call and they want a little motivation or they want a little guidance. You can use the same process then too. So it can also go very, very quickly. It does not have to be super long. So very good. I see. Okay. Looks like Jason has a poll in here. What would it mean to you if I had a leader who coached and led you like this? Good, good. And I'll see here through, we can open up for questions now that we've got the full 8 steps. Any questions that you have about utilizing the steps, how it works for maybe somebody on your team that you need to coach right now. And I'll look through chat too. So Sherry, any questions that have come up to you?
I'm seeing all of the responses to Jason's poll. We mean my leader understands and knowing my why and understanding how to coach me effectively, intentionally. We always go to our own experience. And I will tell you, I've had great leaders and I've had leaders who had opportunities to improve, we'll say. And the leaders who were great in my mind are great because they saw me. They valued me. They understood where I was. And I say they saw me because, your career is a journey and it's always developing. And I think that there's always room to develop, and understanding where your team member is at any moment in time is really important, and understand what their motivations are. When I was looking down, I was taking notes. I love the idea about using numbers. I'm always, trying to think of those mnemonic cheats on how do I remember something. And I think the idea of numbers is helpful. I love the idea of future pacing, celebrating their successes. I love that phrase because sales can be hard and sales can be scary and prickly. And, if you give that, I know you've got this, there's something about that is just sort of that hand on your back guiding you. And so thank you. I think some of the stuff you guys were taught, all of it was just, I was taking notes, scribbling, because I don't do sales, but I'm in alumni development. And so there's things that everything I do, and I'm in PR, and that's sales. So I don't think this applies to just I'm selling gadgets. I mean, I think this goes to everything. So thank you for that. Let me read you some of the other messages that are coming in. This would work for any work situation, not only sales. I absolutely agree, Nancy. Can't wait to share my notes. Definitely coaching, not managing. And Aaron, 100%, Jason, great leaders do see the real you. That is a great statement. I know Aaron's got a great leader, actually. Wait, does Aaron work with me?
Confirm this to be true.
It's great to be coached by someone who celebrates the process just as much as the current win. This is a source of energy. 100% agree, Isaac. Very great. Mary, what can I do today to implement something like this? That's from Bonnie.
Yeah, great question. I think the first is looking at when I'm looking at disciplines, right? And that's what I call for sales leaders, our sales meetings, our daily huddles, our one-on-ones, is look at what you can do as far as time with your people right now, and add that to your calendar, and just make sure that you are meeting. Make sure that you are getting together. And a lot of times that means that we have to give something else up, because I'm also not somebody that believes that, hey, no, just keep adding stuff to your plate, leader. Keep adding it, right? We get so thin. I've had those times, I'm sure, Sherry, you have too, and everyone else on here, where you're working all on the weekends. I've definitely had mornings where, 3 a.m. I'm on the couch, doing my emails, because I'm like, when am I going to do that during the day? Right. And so I'm definitely a leader that believes that one of the most important things that all of us as leaders can do is to protect your time, and to constantly analyze your calendar and where your time is. Your time is your money. It is everything. It is the most important asset that you have. So being really critical with it and really looking at it, knowing though, the time with our people is super important. So what do we need to delegate? What do we need to give up? And I don't mean give up as far as like, now I'm not going to go to my kid's soccer game, not that kind of give up, but what do we need as a task to pass to somebody else? And here's the hard part about that. Most of the time, the thing that we need to give to somebody else to do is something that we love to do and something that we're really good at. And we're going to be replacing that with something that we don't know if we're good at it yet. If you haven't been coaching your team this way, you don't know that you're good at it yet. You're going to learn to be good at it. You're going to be great at it, but you don't have that experience yet. And so sometimes, maybe, looking at data, or I'm thinking about the stuff on my list today, looking at the comp sheets and payroll and those sort of things. Is there somebody else that can do this to make it faster for you so you can spend your time in a way that's more effective for your team, that is better used for the company? The other way to analyze this and analyze your time is, I want you to look at how much time, look at your calendar and look at how much time you spend in all these different areas. And then I want you to take how much you make, figure it out by the hour, and see what you're being paid for that hour of work. And if that task is not worth the salary that you're making, you need to pass it to somebody else that's in alignment with it. And that way you are also constantly growing. You're giving other people an opportunity to grow. And the most important thing that you can do with your time is be with your team and coach them and get them to the next level and be on the streets with them. So the first step is analyzing your calendar and your time and figuring out how do you puzzle it back together to get the most efficiency out of it, not in a way that means I'm not there at night with my family, that I work all weekend, not that way, but in a way that you're constantly growing and growing other people. And there will be moments, right, where it's going to take more of your time to then come back and settle in. I think that is number one. And then second, once you have the meetings, then go follow the process with the 8 objectives. One more tip I'll give you guys right there on every meeting that I have, especially if you're setting this up for the first time and your team's not used to meeting with you, they're going to be nervous. Why are you having a one-on-one with them? I remember I was out in our kitchen area at the office one day, and I was going to get myself a cup of tea, and everybody was around a phone and they were laughing and talking. And I walked up and I was like, what's going on? What are you guys looking at? And they showed me a phone, and it was a girl in our sales department, and she was in the fetal position under her desk in this picture. And I was like, that's really silly. Okay, what's she doing? Why is she there? And they go, oh, she had just gotten an email about a meeting with you. Oh, okay. Big aha to me in that moment. I hadn't been regular because I had been traveling. I had all my excuses. They're real excuses, right? All of our excuses are real. I had been traveling. I had been speaking. I had been going all over the country. So I had not been disciplined about my one-on-one meetings. I was back. I was getting back disciplined. I put them on everybody's calendar and didn't realize that because I had gone outside of that discipline, now there was a fear something was wrong meeting with me. I never want people to have a fear in meeting with me. I want people to be excited to meet with me. So I thought, okay, this is something I have to fix right now. So think about that. What are people going to do? Now, how are they going to feel when they get that meeting invite? My last tip for you is every meeting that you have your opening sentence be what the agenda or what the theme of the meeting is going to be about, whether it's good or bad. So somebody comes in to meet with you, my very first line will be, great, so glad that you're here. We're going to have a brainstorming session today. And then we lead into it. So happy you're here. I just haven't seen you in a long time. I want to catch up with what's going on with your prospects. Thank you so much. Today's going to be a tough conversation. So if it's going to be tough, I'm not going to ask about their weekend. I'm not going to have small talk and then sandwich in and sneak in like a very tough conversation. If it's going to be tough, the first sentence out of my mouth in every single meeting is going to tell you exactly what that meeting is going to be about and the energy of that meeting. And so even if it's going to be a tough conversation, I'll follow it up with, thanks for meeting with me. Today's going to be a tough conversation, but I know we're going to work through it and we're going to be in a really good place by the time you walk out. So very transparent, here's what it is. And when we set it up that way, now it takes all fear away. If we ever do it other ways, what happens is I go into a meeting, I talk about your weekend. what was going on. Very good. I tell you something good that you've been doing. And then I go in and tell you, here's all the bad things that I'm going to tell you. And I have a tough conversation with you. And then I leave you that way. We've now broken trust. They don't trust us anymore. So now for the rest of the meetings that I have with them, until I face that head on, anytime they come to me and say, know that they're having a meeting with me, anytime that I'm telling them something positive, anytime I'm teaching them, they are not listening. It is not sinking in. They are not hearing it, because what's happening is they are waiting for me to get to the bad stuff. They're waiting for the tough conversation, even if it's not coming. And so now I want to pull back, always just open with exactly what we're going to do. Now, if you have an existing team, you've been a leader for them and you're like, oh, I've been doing that. No big deal. There's always a fix. You just say, hey, from now on, I'm going to make sure that in my opening, in my first sentence with you, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to meet about, and there will never be any shocking information. I'm always going to be open with you. I'm always going to tell you that. I'm always going to tell you what we're going to do in the first sentence. From this point forward, that's how it's going to be. So you can always change it, always change your processes, just like I had to do that time where I realized I had somebody in the fetal position for a meeting with me. Came in and I said, hey, super sorry, saw a picture of you in the fetal position. I want you to know we are meeting today because it's my job to coach you and to help you to get better. And so I haven't been able to do that very well lately. I've been on the road. I've got excuses that aren't really excuses. They're not good enough, but those are excuses I gave myself. Going forward, we're going to meet every other week. And we're just going to work on something to help you enjoy your life more, to help you grow and do even better. And when you have ideas of what you want to learn too, you can bring those to me. We're going to meet. If there's something wrong, I'll let you know.
It's great advice, Mary. Great advice. Thank you. I'm laughing because I have 3 people from my team on this call today, and I'm getting messages. This is what you do, and we just talked about this, so I feel good. I feel like I got an A plus on my report card today. I want to thank you. And again, if anybody has a question, please put it in the chat box. I know Jason has been incredible on answering these and giving context and feedback. So thank you, Jason, as well. Mary, as I said earlier, I wrote down multiple takeaways and so many things I love. I love the positivity. I love the transparency piece. I absolutely agree that when you walk in thinking something, I laugh. I have a person in HR who invariably will call me at 4:00 on a Friday, and I tease her and go, you have to stop doing that because that's the scariest call you'll ever get. And she's like, oh, no. I'm like, okay, one day you are going to call me at 4:00 on a Friday and let me go. And I'm going to go, no, this isn't supposed to be our fun time. So I do like the idea of setting up the context on the meetings. To all of our attendees, I hope you enjoyed today's session. Mary and Jason have been guests before, and they both bring such a vast amount of knowledge and insight and just real world, think about this and here's proven tactics. So thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed it. As I mentioned earlier in today's session, you're going to be receiving a survey right after this. I hope you can take a moment and fill that out. If you enjoyed today or you enjoy our series as a whole, I invite you to make sure you register for our April 21st session, and hopefully I'll be able to speak by then, which is Sell More with Science with David Hoffeld. I know, Jason, you've attended his before as well. David is also a repeat guest, and he's going to be talking again about Sell More with Science. If you like things that are outside of the sales arena, which I think we all do as well, I invite you to join our other events that we have. Our Leadership Center is in the middle of its pull series, which is Powerful, Unmistakable Legacy Leaders. It's an empowerment series in honor of Women's History Month. Their next event is going to be Tuesday, March 29th, and they'll be doing a panel discussion on developing your network and leadership skills with board service. Our Global Center for Healthcare Education and Center for Public Safety and Cybersecurity Education, which just rolls right off the tongue, also are hosting events. I invite you to visit franklin.edu/aboutus/community engagement to see a whole list of our events. So with that, I just want to thank you all for taking your lunch hour to really upskill yourself and your ability to really thrive in this market. Mary and Jason, thank you so much for joining us again. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.